Incremental greetings. We have introduced space repetition, and we hinted into something that SuperMemo will learn about you over time. Even if you don't notice as a user that, oh really? I thought it was static, like SM2 algorithm. So let's dig into this. We will see how space repetition software, in this case SuperMemo, adapts to your brain over time, to your performance. And SuperMemo is not a digital flashcard box. It is a smart learning partner, among other things. What's the core idea? That on its heart, SuperMemo interrupts the forgetting. Because humans forget. We forget a lot, and it's actually a feature. It's something you really want. Forgetting is something healthy. But as humans, we can decide, hey, I want to remember this and that, right? So we'll be using a technique called space repetition, or a method. So the goal is to show you the information at the perfect moment, just before you're about to forget it, as we have seen. And the system is designed to actively fight the natural process of forgetting, but only for what you wanted to remember, and with priorities. So first you will see the most important stuff, the kind of important stuff, the so-so, that can wait, the less relevant, and so on, because we have too much information to remember. So even if we decide, I want to remember all of this, it's too much. So SuperMemo will filter this with priorities. And what we don't decide to remember could be the case that we actually remember some facts here and there, and most will be absolutely gone and forgotten. So it's more than just flashcards. Why? It's easy to think that SuperMemo is just a set of digital flashcards, same for Anki. Well, in this case, Anki it's really that, with a space repetition, but you don't have anything else, unlike SuperMemo, that you have the entire learning flow. However, it's more like a personal adaptive learning partner. It doesn't present information. It actively learns how you learn. SuperMemo doesn't care if you use it for language learning, or you use it for math, language, anatomy, whatever, AI, whatever. It is content agnostic. It only gets how you learn, what you forget, and what it is you forget. There it follows a pattern, identifies those patterns, it is from the same place, the same concept, regardless of what is called the concept, and so on. Then, what do we mean by SuperMemo learns about you? So every time you review an item, you grade your recall. Bright, good, and so on. Barely is not an option specifically, but you grade your, let me see it like this. So you have this, right? So bright, good, rather correct, bad. With this, you're seeing only SuperMemo first. If it's you remember or you don't, pass and fail. And then qualitatively, in modern SuperMemos, it's more for the user than for the algorithm, how bad you forgot or how well you remembered. So it uses this qualitative information and affects the intervals. So if you perform worse, you will see it more often. And if you recall it well, you will see it less often, basically. So the system is constant conversation with your memory, asking, do you still remember this? And adjusting this. This is the same that Anki does, but Anki only does this for isolated cards, or at least before FSRS, the modern versions, 5 or 6. In SuperMemo, for many decades, that was not the case. It's you're forgetting this card and cards like this one. That is always, let's pretend, it's the second repetition you lapse it. Or when the interval grows beyond 200 days, you perform a lot lower, a lot worse. So you have like a bad spot between 200 and 300, let's pretend, that everything that falls in this interval, in this range, you will perform super worse. It will adjust to this. Or depending on the kind of item there is. Imagine we have a concept for Chinese. So SuperMemo will know that, all of the items in that category are from the same place or in the same source, comes from the same source you imported, and so on. That's it, the same book, the same article, whatever. So SuperMemo gets like this in chunks, not everything is isolated. So therefore acts like an invisible tutor. This complex learning, by the way, there are literally hundreds of graphs you can see about this. So it's nothing out of the ordinary, which we don't even see it here because it will take too much time. But in the mastery track, we will cover that, and it will be massive, massive, absolutely massive. I didn't count, but I'm pretty sure I could even say that there are more than 1,000 plots possible in SuperMemo. Then, this complex learning process happens silently in the background. Every time, like we did before, every time you respond this is affected. So you're not answering to this flashcard alone. You are updating the entire collection scope. At every single repetition, the algorithm adapts, updates to your performance. Unlike FSRES, in Anki and other apps, that time to time you need to run optimize. In SuperMemo is every single time, constantly. Every action updates that. So therefore, you don't need to understand the complex calculations or evolving model of your memory. That's why in simple, for beginners, we say just trust the algorithm. It will work. If because you're a noob and for let's say the flashcards you do are low quality, and because of this you perform worse than average, let's say, than what SuperMemo comes with, it's called expert data. SuperMemo will adjust to you, but it will take a while. Then it's like having a personal tutor who knows you so well they can predict exactly when you need to remember. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes, it's just based on assumptions. It's guessing. It's like guessing the weather, but super long term. That, hey, I'm recording this in June 2025. Imagine that I can predict the weather in February 2028. It will be sunny, the temperature will be this 28 degrees Celsius, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wow. Then I'm not that precise. There's some degree of error, but this is still a long shot, right? The weather, you're going to predict the weather so far in the future. More or less goes in these consonants. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. It makes a lot of assumptions, yes, but the assumptions are pretty good, pretty damn good and accurate. That's why you can, in the long term, learn a lot of stuff, remember so much stuff with so few repetitions, unlike other apps, other algorithms. And I'm not talking that you do 10% fewer repetitions. No, it's fault. You do 5 times less repetition, fewer repetitions, meaning that in other places you will do 5-fold for the same performance. Then, it's personal to your brain, meaning that if you send me this collection to me and I keep using it, it will change because I'm in a different brain. Or the opposite, I send you my collection, it won't be useful for you because it's optimized now after 5 years according to a different brain. So the algorithm builds a unique model based on your individual performance. That's why the few collections that are sold, like the English collection, everything is new, everything is pending. All of the history, everything is deleted. So you start with the vanilla experience with SuperMemo, the expert data. So every time that you create a new collection, you will have that experience. Okay. So it doesn't have a one-size-fits-all approach like the old versions of SuperMemo, like SM2, that is always the same. Regardless of what you do, what you have seen in your collection, it's always static. Then SuperMemo learns which facts are more difficult for you and schedules them more often. SuperMemo also learns which concepts are easy for you and shows them less frequently. Like, I have English and all of the items that have the English concept, or in other SuperMemos, English category, will have longer intervals. Because by average, I overperform that. SuperMemo has a lot more context. Unlike Anki, let's say, that you create or import a flashcard, but where this comes from, the algorithm has no idea, right? So here I have, hey, this comes from this article, it's in the knowledge tree, has this concept set, in this case has no group. You have a lot of context that you can identify the performance from where this is coming from, unlike any other software. Then trust in the process. As said, you need to understand the math. And in the fluency, it's nothing, virtually nothing. We will only cover the retested rate and forgetting index, the slight math there is. And other than that, just trust the algorithm. If you really want to understand the factor, U factor, so many metrics that are in SuperMemo, they will be covered eventually in the mastery track of the course, and that will take hundreds of videos. And also the use cases. Oh, when it's useful to have to modify the U factor, to modify the A factor for topics, right? It's not just knowing, understanding how it works, it's also playing with those and have some effect in my collection as already diminishing returns. Okay, so then the only requirements for you as a user are two. That's the golden nugget. Consistency and honesty. You have to be blatantly honest to yourself, and this is harder than you may think. That nope, I recall the answer, but I was giving a clue or something was a semantic that just because of the context, oh yeah, what I had that picture was that answer, something like that. Be true to yourself. And the other is consistency. If you don't use it every day or almost every day, let's say 5 times a week, more or less, then you skip days here and there, like I do, for instance, because I work too much, like doing these videos with the course. Sometimes I have to sacrifice my own session, so I skip the day. But you need consistency. Most of the days, you use incremental reading. So you show up to do your daily reviews, even if they're not all of them, and be honest with your self-assessment. If you lie, you don't lie to yourself. You lie to yourself and to the machine. And should I ask why you lie to a machine? It's utterly useless. You can only lose. There will be a dedicated section for this topic, because all of those biases and all of this psychology, it will be in the mastery track, so feel free to check that if it's out of your interest. So therefore, the system handles all of the optimization for you as the most efficient path to knowledge. So the only thing to, as a user, it's painfully simple, is A, it's not like this, but metaphorically, A SuperMemo, I care about this. I want to see this again. I want to remember this. This is that important to me. High priority. That is not that interesting, but I want to still keep it. Low priority. I just tell that to SuperMemo, and that's it. I don't put any, well, in priorities you can put numbers, but you don't have to worry about any metric. There is, behind the curtains. So what's the result? Effortless long-term memory retention. Over time, this silent adaptation has a powerful effect. Scarily powerful effect. Even if you have experienced space repetition with Anki or others, you will still see a difference with incremental reading. That, oh wow, there's a big jump. You will spend less time reviewing, reading, or studying. It's because I really hate this word. But remember far more information and for longer. So even if the time you invest is the same, the outcome you have overshadows the other methods, like reading, highlighting, or all of those excellent efficient methods. Knowledge moves from being cramped in certain memory to being secured in a stable long-term retention. Even if you miss a month, or even if you just move on from incremental reading, you will still keep a lot of memories for a lot longer. It's the difference between frenetically threading water and effortlessly floating. Imagine the bucket from the analogy we did in the previous video. What is space repetition? Imagine a bucket that is so massive, contains so much water that I can be inside, right? Like a pool kind of thing, right? So imagine, it was so effortless that I am just then relaxing, floating on the water inside the bucket. Yes, there will be a leaking, but yeah, it will take years or even a decade. No worries, I can neglect it for a long while, right? And convert this to frenetically threading the water. The stress, how many calories you burn, how much energy you need. You will get tired. For what? For then doing the same action once again, and so on. How you get more or less the extended analogy. So what's the conclusion? Trust the algorithm. And if you don't trust it, wait and see. Wait and see. You will have your own anecdotal evidence that it works. And if you really care, just get into the documentation or just check my mastery path of this course and you will see all of the insights, at least what's public within SuperMemo. So SuperMemo, as a conclusion, its true genius isn't just for flashcards, it's the ability to learn about you, the algorithm. It makes a ton of difference. And because you do the flashcards within the process of learning, unlike Anki or other tools. It silently tailors into a schedule to your brain, creating the most efficient path for long-lasting knowledge. Even if you notice or you don't, it will work anyways. That's all for now. See you incrementally.